We'll be focusing on a lot of the material that are throughout here, as well as actually hopping into Cvent and just looking at that new experience. You know, we've had some other changes with Cvent recently, like moving to Flex. And that was a change for you as well as the constituent. This new user experience is only changing things on the back end for you. It's really the look and feel. There is no functionality that should have been changed, gotten rid of, anything like that. And so with that, it also does not change the constituents' experience at all. They will be none the wiser that this is happening on the back end. So I am going to go ahead and just hop into Cvent. And so from our login page, I will go ahead and open that up. And of course, logging into Cvent on the right-hand side here. So I am already in the new experience. I had clicked the try up in this gray banner. So if I wanted to switch back to that old interface, a bit more blue, whereas this one I've just been calling a bit more white. It seems a bit lighter. But this is still the same basic screen where you can preview all of the events that you have access to. And again, where things are located is pretty well the same. And so some of those things I'll call out here in the top, like this little search function. If you have got many events and you want to search for a specific event, maybe one that happened a long time ago, that's a great function to use. Also, just to the right of that, we do have these recent items. So if you've been juggling a couple events, going in between the different ones, you could use this area to toggle between those different events based on what you've recently been looking at. We also have the oh so helpful, lovely question mark up here and underneath the help and support that we know and love from Cvent. So that will go ahead and open up in another tab, that completely separate knowledge base, which looks identical to what it was before. You can, of course, still contact help and support or search for different items here. It does help to spell things correctly, but once you go ahead and do that in that example, I'm searching sessions. I do just want to highlight the filters that appear on the left-hand side. So I like to refine based on my experience since I am working with the new experience now, and that will restrict what articles you're seeing. But if you happen to go to the wrong article, like this one, creating sessions in Classic, the other good thing is that at the top of all of these instructions, they do have a note that if you're in the new experience, you should be referencing a separate article. So really nice to see all these new resources from Cvent to help with the transition. I am going to dive into creating an event, and I will move through this pretty quickly. I know y'all, you're pretty familiar with Cvent, so really just looking at that overarching change in the look and feel. One of those big ones being that kind of blue button that I just hit to create an event. Whereas it used to be green, but again, in the exact same space it was. As we had before, you can create based off an existing template or an existing event if you already customized an event yourself. So again, we're not taking anything away, but I will go ahead and snag a template real quick. And so the area that I'm running through quite quickly here, and nothing has changed. You still need to provide all of your basic event information, add those categories, getting your when, where details all added. And of course, your custom event fields. Don't forget to select your campus here, set up your finance information. But all that to say, every single area of this has remained the same. That'll let me hit next. Okay, so the next couple pages that you will be presented with will be those same event features that you have the ability to enable or disable. All the same features we had originally. And that same sort of, if you want to maybe uncheck a feature, you're more than welcome to, maybe checking certain features before you move on. We, of course, have our web links still set in there, which I will highlight where those are. But with that, we should be able to go ahead and finish. So now that this event has been created, and this is also how I encourage a lot of users as they start learning this environment, is you don't need to start from an event from scratch. You can very much go to a previous event and look at this information. So this is the space where you will start seeing the biggest differences from the old experience to the new experience. And what that is really this left navigation compared to what was before. The vertical or the top navigation was in those blue marks. So just kind of flipped it on its side a little bit. So I will highlight in this general tab, we are right now on the home, just a little overview of our event, but similarly to what we had before, we've got our event information here. All those basic details, who, what, when, that we added to this event lives here and is there for you to edit and make changes if you ever need to. The other area that's very similar like that is the event configuration, the second big tab that we've already configured, we've already defined, but if you ever need to make changes after that initial configuration, you're always able to go ahead and edit and enable those certain features. Continuing within this general tab, I will also highlight within the event status. This will be an important piece. A little odd that it's up at the top because it's more important later on in your event or once you've actually built it out. This is not only where you can test your event. Under actions, you can perform a test and get that to your inbox. Once you've actually tested it and decided that it's good for launch, this is where you would, of course, send for approval. So if you haven't used that workflow before, it is built in there where you can select your e-com specialist and go ahead and send it on to them to approve. So the final tab under general that I will highlight is event settings. And this is important if you are collaborating with other Cvent users. So by default, nobody except like admins or e-com specialists have access to your event except you. But if you ever need to expand that to other users, this is where you would go ahead and search for them, check the box next to their name, and be sure to hit save. So that does get us through this general tab, and we'll continue to see that many of these elements are so similar to how it was before. I am not going to touch on every single tab, like planning here. There is seating underneath it. I don't think a lot of us use the seating functionality. You're welcome to, but I'm going to focus more on the necessities, which I will look at as website. And underneath that, we have what's called the event website. So when I click on this event website, this page feels very similar to the old one to me as well. And it also has what I tend to hit first when I come here is this blue button of opening the site designer. So this is the same site designer that you've all been working with. So it being identical, not an area that this should be a learning curve. I very much consider the site designer its own sort of element. You can get lost in here, as Jen knows, at 8 p.m. on Fridays. And as you all know, this summary page is or this navigation is going to take you to the different pages. So you are able to actually get into your registration process where people are actually giving you information. But the only reason I connect that is because when I exit out of this, you will also notice the next area on here under website is registration, and specifically the registration process. And when you go to this page, you're again going to see all these pages, but ultimately opening the same site designer. So 2 different ways of getting to the same designer. This is the one area that actually tripped me up, that didn't feel like it was in the same spot it was before. There is a marketing tab now. I think it used to be promotions and communications for marketing and email. They've gone ahead and separated them. So your web links will now be found as that first tab under marketing. But like I said, I struggled to find it one day. It's like, oh no, I need to go back. I need to get that right now. But once I figured out where it was, it's almost identical to what this page looked like previously. And of course, with those web links, most of us are taking that summary link out of Cvent and embedding it within a marketing cloud communication. And so, of course, you can send post-registration communications from Cvent, like a registration confirmation or a know before you go. And so those are found under email and event emails. So you can either open up one of these communications and look at what the subject line is of that message using a data tag. We love that. If you need to change the from address or something. You can also go ahead and preview your email from here. But if you really need to make changes to the content, of course, we're going to use that email designer. So another area that came out with Flex that I actually really enjoy, like the different navigation up here, easily toggling between the different emails. All right. I will exit out of my email designer. And the last 2 pieces that I will highlight is the attendees tab, and underneath we have the attendee list. So clearly an event that has not been launched yet, but if it were, presumably people registering this is where that would display. Then somewhat in the same token, look at reports, or underneath that category, reports. Very redundant there. If you ever need to run any reports of who's registering for my event, what questions are they asking, who said they need accessibility help, all the way to things that I think are often forgot about, like email reports. Are people opening those emails that you're sending out? Might be worth a look. Are they clicking on the links that you're sending out? Those are all useful if you're collecting financial information. There's financial reports. So any data in there, you really have access to. All right. So I know, I think I failed to share out this actual link. My apologies all. I will put that into chat right now as an ongoing resource, but we really did talked about that timeline, of course, December 1, but a few tips around that home screen navigation that's really not that different, and then that deep dive around kind of every area of these tabs. So if you do have any questions after this session, or even learning more around some of these resources, there are links throughout here as well. I will go ahead and stay on the line if anybody else does have questions, on topic, off topic, whatever is fine. But otherwise, thank you all for joining today, and best of luck with learning the new experience.